welcome to Outdoors with Mr. White. I'm Mr. White and we're outdoors. We just got a whole big dump of this snow on us. So I thought today I'd teach you a survival skill. And you don't have to go very far. I'm actually in my backyard. We're going to build a shelter that we could actually stay in if we were ever outside in the snow. And all you need is a shovel, a snow, and you might have to get some help from mom or dad or somebody, an adult or an older brother or a big sister or somebody, okay? It's really windy, and if I was going to stay out here today, I'd have to have a shelter. I couldn't stay outside, I would freeze. So I'm going to build this shelter, and I'll explain it as we go, but the first thing we need is a big pile of snow, okay? So I'm going to finish my pile of snow. You can watch. Boys and girls, now that we had chosen a spot and we started digging the snow around us and actually making a pile of snow, I have a snow pile that I think is big enough now, but the next step is very important. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it set, and it's going to kind of squish together and stick together and glue together, so it does that all by itself. If I was to start building my Quinzee now, the snow is too fluffy and it'll start to just crumble in on me. So what I'm going to do, and you may be able to figure it out already, is I'm going to dig a little hole in the side of this, and I'm going to use this as my shelter. But I can't do it now, it's way too fluffy. So we're going to go in the house. I'm going to go in and I'm going to have a cup of tea, chug of tea that I got from a yellow birch tree. And I'll show you that in a couple of other videos. I've shown you some chug on the trees, but one of these days I'm going to show you a whole video on how to make chug of tea. And we'll take it off the tree and actually dry it and make it, and it's very, very delicious, and it warms me up on a cold day like today. So I have my big snow pile here. It's going to compact, it's going to squish together while I drink my chug of tea, and then this afternoon I'm going to get all dressed up again, warm, and come back outside, and I'll start step number 2 on building our Quinzee shelter. Okay, let's go inside and have a cup of tea. Boys and girls, we've seen these before. These are our pruning scissors, pruning shears that we used when we cleaned up the gardens in front of our school. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to go to these lilac bushes behind me, and the next step for us in our Quinzee is to make some sticks about 30 centimeters long. So that's about the same as a ruler at school. So I'm going to cut maybe 10 or 12 of these, and they're going to help me when I'm building my Quinzee. It is really windy and cold. There's a hail coming down and it's getting kind of wet and miserable. I'm glad I'm building a shelter. I would not want to be outside, especially if I had to stay overnight, unless I had a shelter from this terrible weather. Okay, so let's cut some sticks 30 centimeters long. Okay, boys and girls, I'm hiding on this side of my snow hill because the wind is coming from over there and it is blowing really hard. So I'm hiding on this side and the wind can't really get at me because my snow hill is protecting me. And if you remember when we talked at school, that means I'm on the lee side. So I'm on the lee side, I'm hiding from the wind. Now here are the sticks that I gathered up from our lilac tree, and now they're about 30 centimeters long. See a little branch you need to snip off. Have to be very careful when you use any scissors or a knife or anything like that outside. Mr. White's been doing it for a long time, so this is something that you might need some help from mom or dad with. Ooh, is it ever windy. So I've got my sticks 30 centimeters long, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it right into my snow hill, and I'll show you right here. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to shove it straight in until it's buried right to the top. Now I'm going to take all of these ones and I'm going to stick them in two all over the place. So I'm going to stick some right in here, and I'm going to take all of my sticks and I'm just going to stick them through the walls of my Quinzee. And I'll tell you why we're doing that. Woo! Is it ever windy? So there's my stick in here. Here's my big 30-centimeter stick, and I'm going to shove that in, and I'm going to shove this one in, and I keep putting all of these little sticks in my Quinzee. So I've got a few more to do. Now I'm going to put one right up at the top and make sure that I shove it way down there. So now all of those sticks that I stuck in are all in 30 centimeters. And there's a reason for that. And I'll show you in a few minutes. Now, boys and girls, now that we've stuck these sticks all through, I have some in the top and I have some all the way around the sides. The wind is coming from that direction, way over there. It's coming from there. And if I hide around on this side, then the wind goes around it this way and around it that way, and the wind can't really get me here. Okay? So I'm kind of protected. So if this is the side I'm being protected on, this is the lee side. So what I'm going to do, I don't want the wind to blow in my shelter. So I found the lee side. I could toss snow up and see where the wind's blowing. Sometimes I could maybe tie, like we did at school, tie up a little ribbon or a piece of yarn, and the yarn would be pointing that way, because that's the way the wind's coming. I'm going to try to stay away from the wind. I'm going to start my door on this side for my Quinzee, okay? So I'm going to start digging here and try to get inside of my snow hill. Okay, boys and girls, keeping in mind that the wind is coming from that side, I want to put my door on this side. If my door was on the other side, the wind would blow right in my shelter. So I'm going to start digging here. I brought a little shovel. And I'm going to start my Quinzee door right here. I'm going to take the snow from inside my Quinzee and pile it up here on the side, so it'll stop the wind. It'll make another wall that I can be protected from. So all I want to do with this shelter is to have shelter, get out of this terrible weather. Okay, so that's my goal, is to get out of this rotten weather. Now I want to tell you what the sticks are for. When I'm digging inside and I'm cleaning out the inside, when I come close to the end of a stick, I stop digging. If I kept digging and digging and digging and digging, I would pop a hole right up through my roof. So when I'm digging, when I see the stick, I know that I'm about 30 centimeters from the inside. So I don't want to dig all the way out, because then that'll make a hole in my shelter. So what I want to do is just dig. When I see a stick, I stop and I start digging somewhere else. And when I can see all of my sticks, that's as big as my shelter inside can be. Okay, so I'm going to keep digging. I don't see any sticks, so I can dig a little bit more. It's so much warmer even just sitting down here. I'm out of the wind. I could crawl in there now, but I'm going to make it big enough that we can get in with the camp. You can come in and see what's inside. Now remember, when I come close to a stick, I have to stop. If I don't stop, my don't want that to happen. I need a place to stay. You can see in here now, this is what I'm looking at. And it's getting pretty deep. And I don't see any sticks. And the sticks are my safety. So I know that if I dig, if I keep digging and I see the tip of the stick, that's when I stop, okay? So I'm gonna keep on digging and digging. It's big enough for me to get in here now, but I wouldn't be very comfortable. I'd be pretty small, pretty cramped. So I'd be bent over in half. So Mr. White wants to be able to get in here and lay out and have a nice rest. So I'm gonna continue to dig. Okay, I'll show you in a couple of minutes how far we're going. Okay, so I'm digging in here and look what I found. That's the end of one of my sticks. So I have to stop. I can't dig any closer on this side. And you can see the light right there? That means I'm getting pretty close to the outside and I don't want that to happen. So I know I have at least 30 centimeters and I'm gonna stop. And now I'm gonna move around to that back wall and maybe a little bit of the ceiling and see if I can dig some more. But that's what the sticks are for right there. So that's as far as I'm gonna dig. I'm done on that wall. It's getting pretty big in there. Probably hear and see the storm is still going on. It's raining hard now, hail and a bunch of rain, and now it's starting to get dark in the sky. You can see the trees are blowing around from the wind, and it's going to start to get colder and it's going to become nighttime. And what's going on now is I am very happy. If I was lost in the woods or I needed a shelter outside somewhere, I'm glad that I finished when I did, because now I wouldn't want to be outside. I would start to get wet, I'm going to start to get cold, and it's a little scary when it's dark out. So I've got a nice shelter. Let's go in and see if this is a place that we can probably stay for the night, because the wind is starting to get bad and I want to get inside. Let's go. Okay, so now we've climbed in and there's our hole to get out. That's our door. So if I was going to stay in here overnight, I probably would put my backpack or put something up against that door so that the cold air is not going to come in. But at least the cold air is blowing that way from outdoors, because this is the side, the sheltered, the lee side. So we snuck in here. Now, one important thing is I would never close that off. If a person had a tarp and they blocked that whole thing off, there would be no air in here and you would run out of oxygen. Your body needs oxygen, so you need to have fresh air coming in all the time. And what Mr. White did just a second ago was I took a stick, and I'll show you what I did right here in the wall. I don't know if you can see it up there, but I poked a little hole. It's from a broom handle. See that little hole? I got a couple of them around here, so at least if I did close the door off, the wind, I could still breathe through those little holes. Now, something that I'm going to do here, I want to show you something that's kind of fun, is I brought a candle, and I'm going to see if I can get my lighter to light and see if I can light my candle in here. There we go. Look at that. I have a little candle in a jar, and I'll put that in the snow there. Now, this does 2 or 3 things. that little candle is going to warm up this place, and heat rises, so all the hot air in here is going to come up to the top, and that's why the hole for the door is down there. The cold air is going to stay low and the hot air is going to come up. So I'm better if I'm way up here than if I'm down close to the ground. And if I was going to stay in here overnight, I would throw a whole bunch of spruce boughs or pine needles or stuff all over the ground here, so, or branches, and even piles of leaves from an old leaf pile. If I put leaves all on the ground and sticks, it would stop me from laying flat on the snow and catching a cold or getting really, really cold. So I make like a mattress, like your bed mattress. So I would use some natural things and put them down, or if I had a couple of sleeping bags, I would lay them down first, and then I would be able to stay away from the cold. And this is really nice in here now. It's very cool. So this is going to light up everything so I can see, so it's not as scary at night. It also will warm this place up. And the last thing that I really want it to do is the heat from the top of this candle is going to come up into the air, and it's going to warm the inside of this shelter, this Quinzee, and it'll actually turn the snow here into ice. And when that all becomes ice and that's hard, then that means that the wind can't get through. Do you understand what I mean? Like it's gonna make a nice little barrier, almost like I put plastic up there and the wind can't get through. So that candle right there is one of my best friends right now. It's gonna keep me well lit up. It's gonna be nice and warm in here, and I don't get so scared if I am stuck outside in the dark. Okay? So, boys and girls, a couple of things I want to go over before we finish up and wrap up today's activities. First of all, thanks a lot for coming outside with Mr. White. Second of all, I'd like to run through quickly the order of things that we needed to do in order to build our Quinzee. First, we had to make the big snow hill. Second, we had to let it set, and we went in the house for a couple of hours. Third, we stuck our sticks in that were 30 centimeters long. And lastly, we dug all the inside out, and that made this nice little room for us to be sheltered away from the weather. Our sole purpose for this whole activity was to make it so that if you are ever in need of a shelter and it's winter time, you don't need to be afraid. You know that you can make a big hill and it's safe for you to dig in. You know how thick the walls have to be and which way the door has to face. Those are things that you could have learned or should have learned from this video today. Okay? There are a few rules that I want to go over. My biggest rule is don't ever build a Quinzee from the snow hills that are next to the road. If there is a snow hill next to the road or at the end of the mall parking lot or someplace that looks big and you say, oh, I could build the coolest tunnels in there, I'd rather you not do that. I'm really asking you, please do not ever do that, because the snow plows do come by quite often and cars drive by, and if you slipped and fell out, or if the snow plow didn't know I was in here and came by and crushed it, it could be a really serious accident. So only use the snow hills that you make in your own backyard. Okay? And you will need some help. You'll need mom or dad or an adult that loves you and a friend or a brother or sister to help you out. Okay? It's much more fun when you have somebody to work with. Okay? Sometimes I put a flag on top of mine. I'm going to put a flag on this one tomorrow. I'm going to get a stick and put it in the very top and tie a little red piece of material, a sock or something like that, so that people know that this is not just a snow hill. They'll know that somebody's been playing around it and that they won't jump on it or destroy it. Okay? Jumping on a Quinzee is not a good idea. If somebody is inside the Quinzee and I walk on top of it or jump on it, that snow is all going to come down on the person, and the snow is very, very, very heavy. It took Mr. White a long time, and I was very exhausted when I was finished shoveling. This snow is very heavy, so you have to be very careful that it doesn't fall down, okay? And that's one of the reasons that I want you to be with a friend or somebody else, so that if it does cave in, then you can always get to safety, okay? So now we know how to build it. We know some of the safety rules, and here's the last thing I want to do. I want you this week, as your homework, to try to build for yourself a Quinzee or a snow hill and dig a little tunnel in it, and I want to see if you can send me a picture of you in your Quinzee.
okay? And if you want to put your sticks in the walls to make sure it's good and thick, if your moms and dads or whoever want to help you build it, great. If you want to try to build one by yourself like Mr. White did, be very careful, but make sure there's somebody watching you, okay? You may not want them to help, but please make sure that they're keeping an eye on you and maybe sitting on a chair beside or whatever, okay? And I'd love to see them. You know how to get the pictures to me. You can send them to me or bring them to me when we're back to school, okay? Stay safe, have fun, get outside, and thanks for coming outside with Mr. White. Take care.